you guys, I just want to start off this mug video with a failure. So this is a cup that's going to get cut off and not used anymore. This is just to show you guys that, I've been doing this for a really long time, and not every cup has to make it in the kiln. Not every time you throw is going to be a success. Sometimes failures need to happen so you can learn stuff, and you know what? We can recycle it, we can reuse it, and we can make something new out of it. So here is, I'm going to make a quick little mug for you guys. And so I'm going to cone the clay a few times. I'm going to use my pinky, index, and ring finger to move the clay up and push it back down using the palm of my hand. Some people call it coning and plateauing. Whatever you want to call it this is just part of the centering process. So it's really helpful to get the air out, and it really makes the clay a little more even. So I do it quite a few times. Especially if I'm using a mug or like have a very interesting shape that I want to try. I tend to do it a little bit more so I can even out the clay better. If I'm throwing something bigger, it doesn't really matter as much. But these little forms seem to really be beneficial. So I'm going to use my fingers and my thumb to make a V shape until I get the thickness of my base. And then I'm going to use my index finger and kind of curl it around to make that flat bottom. So that's what I'm working on now, is compressing the bottom. So I'm going back and forth along the bottom. I'm not making it any deeper. I'm just making that base really, really strong, because that's going to be the support of the cup itself. So it needs to be strong, it needs to be sturdy, and if you compress it, it won't S-crack, which is a common occurrence. If you do not compress your clay enough at the bottom, an S-crack will form. And it's the only way to fix your S-crack is to dry slower, or the bigger problem is compressing the clay. So this is called coning. So you make a little donut is what I call it. I'm going to lift that donut up and away from me, so it makes a little cone. So this just gets the clay into a shape that's right for throwing. This first pull, I'm going to keep fairly straight walls because it's going to be a mug, right? So the first part of a mug is a cylinder. So I'm going to keep these fairly straight. Usually in my first pull is most of my height. Maybe half of my height will come from the first pull. I'm compressing the rim right now. So putting one finger on top, pushing from that finger into two fingers on the side, that will help compress the rim. Now I'm going to make another pull. I might add a little more shape into this pull, into the mug, just so the clay knows what it's doing next or what I want it to do. Compressing the rim again. Compressing the rim is really important when you have a mug, because it's the one part of the mug that really holds together. It makes throwing really much easier if you compress the rim. So if you can see now, the rim is getting deformed, but because I compressed it, I'm not worried about changing its shape. It'll go back into its form because I compressed it and it knows what to do. It may get wider, but I can always make it narrower as I'm throwing. So each throw I add some more water along the outside and the inside of the mug just to make sure everything is nice and smooth. If your hands are sticking, you'll feel it, and that's not what you want to happen. So compressing the rim again, making sure it's nice and uniform. Now I'm going to take a rib. This is a plastic rib. I'm going to add shape and take my throwing lines off of the mug. It also takes the slip off the mug. Now you can tell I'm looking at it, looking at the shape. I'm going to press the rim again. I compress the rim after each throw or pull or anything I do to the outside or inside of the mug. Make sure I compress the rim. Just makes it much stronger. I've actually had cups break, and the only thing that's still intact is the rim, because I compressed the clay so much. So it's a good thing. It makes the cups a little stronger as soon as they're fired as well. I'm going to do a little more shape into your mug. My average pulls are 3 pulls for a mug, and then I would say a maximum of 3 shaping pulls, or 3 shapings with the rib. If you do more than that, you're just telling the clay to do too many things. It doesn't really like to do that so much, so I would really recommend 3 pulls and then a max of 3 shapings. Really only 1 or 2 is all you really need for a good mug. So this is a chamois, but you could use a paper towel or just compress it with your fingers, but it just helps to smooth out the rim a little bit to make it a little softer, a little cleaner. Now I'm going to take a wood tool and I'm going to clean up the bottom. Because I don't trim my cups, I don't trim any of my cups. I like to make like a faux foot, and so I use my tool in a way to make a little faux foot, and then I also make a little spot for my wire tools to go. So now I always like to spin the wheel as I cut it off. I tend to feel like it cuts off better. As you can tell, I forgot to take the water out of the mug. There should be no water in the mug when it dries, or it'll dry really weird and wonky, and your base will more than likely fall through because the clay will stay wet for too long. So now I'm going to spin the wheel as I cut it off. And now if I use my towel to dry my hands off, I can just pluck it right off the wheel. So if you see, I do a little twist as I'm pulling it off. That little twist is the key to getting it come off really, really smoothly. If I were to just pull straight up without the twist, there's a chance that it could still adhere and I would pull the bottom off. So I'm just going to do a quick little video of Mr. Gallas throwing a few mugs together just so you can see them in quick fashion. I've been throwing mugs for, oh man, a really long time. And when I was in grad school, I'd spend a weekend each end of school year right before summer, and I would make like 150 to 200 mugs that I would sell throughout the whole summer. It was just kind of like an easy, fun way for me to make a little extra cash while I was in grad school. Keep my throwing skills sharp. But I have a big passion for mugs and cups in general. How we use them, their function, how they fit in someone else's hand in comparison to mine. So, enjoy the little video. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed that little video. I'm going to show you guys how I finish each of my mugs. So what I like to do is I like to tap in the base, right? So this is making like a faux foot to make the inside of the base go in a little bit. So see how it goes in a little bit, and then I make that nice edge for it to sit on. If I didn't do that, it would sit on the whole base, which could get wobbly. So I don't want it to be flat, I want it to go in a little bit. So I use my palm because it's a nice round shape for the foot. And I'm just going to tap it in slowly, and I'm going to slowly just roll that edge right around the table, like a canvas table so it doesn't stick, and then I make a nice little foot. I do this for all of my mugs, so it's just an easy way to make sure your mug is always going to sit nice on your table, and it's never going to get too wobbly. You could get some wobble, but it's really beneficial to do this. So I do all my mugs this way. It's just how I was taught to make mugs without, trimming a foot. Now, if you trimmed your foot, it would look like similar to this, but you would be using a trimming tool. This is just a quick, easy way to do it. I've had lots of practice. I make this look really easy. It's not as easy as it looks, but with just like a few mugs, a few tries, you'll get it. I wanted to show you guys what the walls of a good mug looks like. So I'm cutting this because the foot is too shallow. It's far too shallow. So the walls are nice and even. The base is too thin. Alright, you guys, I want to show you how to make a candle quick. So there's like 100 different ways to make candles, and all of them are right, none of them are wrong. And it's really just like how you feel comfortable. So what I'm first going to do is I'm going to grab a big chunk of clay, and I'm going to throw a handle. We call this throwing a handle. I'm going to throw it off of this chunk of clay, and I'm going to let it get leather hard. So throwing a handle is like throwing the wheel. So you use lots of water, and you're using your hands to glide through the clay, and you're slowly thinning that handle out, or that portion of this clay out. And if you see, my handles are going back and forth. They're changing the directions. I'm going one way, and then I'm flipping it around and doing it the other way. The reason I'm doing this is your hand is not perfectly even. Like one side is always like fatter than the other side. And so you have to do both sides. So once I feel like I have a good spot, I set it on the table and I make sure it's stuck. I would say if you're going to do this, I would do this at your regular table and just kind of throw it over a bucket like I'm doing. And what will happen is you'll have a better stick because this second handle that I put on is going to fall off the table. And like it happens sometimes, it's a casualty, but it takes a little practice to do. But once you like see how it's done and like see what a good handle looks like, it just takes practice and you can get there. Like see how that chunk just fell off? It's no big deal because I have this like huge chunk of clay that I can grab a handle from. So I'll just move more of the clay around and I'll just make another handle from that. The kind of fun way to do this is if you have like 5 cups that you need to put handles on, you can make like 7 different looking handles and see which one fits best for your cup. So that's what I would suggest. If you enjoy throwing handles this way, I would make at least 2 more handles than you do cups. When I was an undergrad, this was like my favorite way to do it. I would have like 30 handles all set up. See, that one fell off. Disappointing. It's okay. I would have like 30 handles set out from like 25 cups, and then I would just walk around to each handle and see which one would fit my cup, because I would throw all my cups would be different shapes. Alright, so now I'm going to make a handle using a rolling pin or a roller, a texture roller if you want. There are lots of different ways to make handles using this method, but it works really well. So I want to get it wide to narrow and then thick to thin. So a good handle on a mug should always be thicker at the top and thinner at the bottom. It should be wider at the top and narrower at its base. It doesn't have to be like this to be a successful handle, but there's some weird psychology in our brain that says a handle needs to be thicker at the top and it needs to be wider at the top and needs to be thinner and narrower at the bottom in order for our eyes and our body to tell us it's like a good looking handle. So there's something like deep down inside of us that says a handle should be this way. And I always like to add some sort of like raised edge, so it's not just like a flat piece of clay as a handle. The one benefit of using this way is you can set it out so how it would fit on your handle or fit on your cup. So I can leave it dry like this, and then all I have to do is scratch and score where this would meet on my cup. And I can just plunk it on there after it's the same hardness of my clay. So it's a nice little easy way to make a handle by just using a slab roller. That way you can get it up nice and even. It just works really well. Another way is you can just use your hands to do that, or you can use like a roller just a little bit, or just use more of your hands. You don't have to use tools if you don't want to. If you want to just use your hands, just use like we call this like a slab handle. Get your hand texture in there, make it your own, right? Your hands are making this cup. This cup is made from you, and your tools are your hands. So make it yours, right? So look at that. That's like a perfect little handle shape. All you have to do is pluck that right on your cup, scratch and score, and it's good to go. So I hope you enjoyed this like little way to make handles. If you have any questions, please come find me. But my next little video is going to be how I attach them and how I go about making handles on my cups. Alright, so throwing handles off the cup is my favorite way to make handles. It was the hardest way for me to learn how to make handles, but as soon as I did it, and it was successful one time, which took a few trial errors, but I just feel like it looks the best for how I make cups. So what I do is I scratch on the cup where I think the cups goes. So I always, spin the cup around a few times to figure out where exactly it needs to go. I'll slip and score a chunk of clay, and I'm going to attach that to the cup really, really well. So I'm going to spend like a minute, maybe 30 seconds on just making sure this handle, this chunk of clay is really, really attached. So it's kind of in handle form now, where it's wider to narrow, thick to thin. but it has a lot. It has like there's a ways to go. It's not there yet. It's not nowhere near the way a handle should look. And I'm going to pull it off the cup. The only disadvantage to doing this is if you mess up, if you get a thin spot or something like that, what can happen is you're going to have to start all over, and then you have to let the cup dry out a little bit before you try it again. So I'm going to pull it off. I'm going to thin it out. I like a groove where my thumb can go towards the top. I'm going to make sure it's wide to narrow, thicker to thinner. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to look at the handle and the cup. I'm going to look at the angle. If you notice how I'm holding the cup right now, it's not quite parallel. It's a little down. So because I want that handle to go up and then down, but only slightly. And because I attached the handle really, really well, this handle isn't going to come off this cup. If you didn't attach it well enough, it'll pop off. So once I get close, once I feel like it's really close to where I want it to be, I'm going to slowly tilt the cup down, and I'm going to move the handle to where it needs to go, and it's finished.